Hey guys, this is Range92 here. You know, the usual spiel. You call me Ray, whatever, but I was catching us up to speed, and I clicked up after, reading Mute's helpful note on the genealogy, and so it basically went up to Hyune's version of the genealogy, and this is her response, so I figured I'd, clue you guys in, and then we'll skip ahead to, again, the countdown and that whole big spiel. So, yeah, what a mess. Leave it to her to clutter things up with useless names. Oh, sorry, click in. It's no surprise coming from someone as childish as her, of course. Okay. So, go up. I mean, let's see if she has anything to say on the pronunciation. She does. Interesting. Hey, look, I'm sorry, but I'm not really sure why you're showing me this. As far as I can tell, it's not relevant to anything. If you could just explain it in words, it'd be fine, but well, sorry, I don't really have anything to go off. Maybe you could try showing me something similar and see if I can make a connection. Otherwise, I'm afraid I got nothing. Interesting. A cliche to remember. Okay, yeah, no. Abased? Seriously? What a complete and utter misrepresentation. In case it wasn't obvious, that's a completely liberal and messed up translation. Yes, it's a common phrase, but that's not what it means. What it really means, just means is male superiority, that's all. Fine, it's a cliche that kinda states the obvious, so what? I don't know where she's pulling this women are abased nonsense from. It's stupid. Alright then. Got some new things. Let's see here. We haven't heard anything from Ryu Jae-hwa, so let's see what she has to say. Oh, wow. Queen Ryu Jae-hwa's admonitions to the new bride. That really brings back memories. Okay, so do you want to know more about the admonitions to the bride, or Queen Ryu Jae-hwa herself, the queen? Okay, sure. She was kind of more than just my queen. It's, well, I guess I have to explain my own position for it to make sense. So, yeah, I appear to be just a woman like you, but that's just my personal appearance. I'm actually, a computer program. So when I say I was, well, still am, really, in charge of security for the whole ship, I mean it. I was an actual official. I outranked pretty much everyone on the ship, save for the Emperor, and of course, by extension, his primary wife. So while I might have reported directly to the Emperor in theory, I did with others in the past, Emperor Ryu Inho chose to let that sort of thing go through his wife instead. What this is all getting at is, for all intents and purposes, she was my real mistress, not him. We were pretty close. Well, as close as you can be to your better, anyway. I liked her a lot. She was actually really intelligent for a woman, and was surprisingly tough for a noble. I know, it's a little weird, but trust me, with her, it was pretty okay. She managed to be great while still knowing her place. So yeah, like I said, I liked her a lot. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. This is my point. I remember those admonitions because I actually helped her write them. I mean, I didn't write a single word or anything, but she asked me for advice. Mostly she was just modest. So let me see. I really want you to get the right impression of her, you know? She kind of wrote a lot. Well, nobody's perfect. Don't let that cloud your judgment of her, though, alright? I mean, I'm not impressed either, but at least it means you'll be able to see what she was like. Alright. I've got 3 for you to see. Well, one's kind of actually about me, but still, it shows you just how good a person she was. If you want to see the rest of the admonitions, let me know. I can do that too. Alright, so we're gonna click back. Right, so her admonitions then. Well, you're not married, so I guess you wouldn't really know about this, would you? Although, even if you were, it would really depend on what sort of family you manage to marry into, so that's not exactly a guarantee anyway. The point is, it's considered fairly typical for a new gentleman's bride to get a series of verses explaining what will be expected of them as a wife, as well as just friendly advice. Well, the reason why these ones weren't written in verse is pretty simple, I guess. It's because the Queen Liu Jiehua had absolutely no ear for it. Honestly, personally, I think that's pretty endearing. But she was really worried about the pale bride since she was a younger, prettier girl for her husband and all, so she wanted to make a really strong impression. I suggested to her that she do what she was good at and just write them in prose, since if she was as uneducated as I thought she would be, and she was, it's not like she'd know any better anyway. Well, I guess that backfired a little since it turned out that she was so uneducated that she didn't actually even know any letters. Oops. Anyway, here, let me just give you a giant info dump and pass along all the admonitions for you to see for yourself. Ooh, she has more to say? Well, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that I'm letting my mistress tell that crazy bitch the admin password was surely the greatest mistake any man has ever made in the entire ship's history. Haha, whoops. Didn't realize you'd actually use it, as if anything good could have possibly come from trusting a woman with that sort of power. I mean, I'm sure he was counting on her not knowing how to use the computer rather than being some sort of genius with it, but come on. Well, I'm sure you'll see for yourself soon enough. So, we're gonna go up, and BAM! Look at all this from the Queen. Alright, so where do we even start? I mean, we've read the seventh piece of the marital admonition, so I guess we, oh man. So yeah, let's talk about the marriage, and then go 1 to 7. Finish it off strong with something we know. My fear of the pale bride, it seems, was unfounded. In my letters to her, I wrote that I was not jealous. A lie, of course. As queen, it is truth. Hang on. 1 second. Alright, guys, sorry about the interruption. My mother was getting impatient with my brother and was like, hey, you wanted this thing, and I don't want to stand here waiting for you. And so I was like, okay, shut up. I'll give it to him. Stop whining. And then that happened. So anyway, yeah, as I said, the queens and, royalty are always going to be jealous, but, clearly, I totally called it. The idea is that, they're just not allowed to be. So, as queen, it is true that I have authority over any of my husband's other wives, but that authority does certainly not extend to his affections, especially since she is a beautiful woman of only 15 years, and I am a withered old lady 20 years her senior. So she's, what, 35? That's it? I would be a fool not to be jealous. And yet, I am not. Until she officially married my husband, I had only seen her briefly at the formal interview. Aside from her beauty, she had made hardly any impression. But now she is living in my house, and I have seen more of her while she is not busy attending to the Emperor, and I realize now that I have no cause for jealousy. That is any fault of hers. She hasn't spoken a single word to me, and she only looks at me from a distance. At first, I mistook this for arrogance, as though she thought me unworthy of approaching. I realized soon that is not so. I see no smugness in her eyes, nor do I see happiness, nor sadness, nor anything else. She is afraid of me. Not the sort of fear that would show in her eyes. The sort of fear that would paralyze or leave her on edge. It is hardly noticeable at all, and yet I can tell. Her fear is that of resignation, the sort of fear where one simply waits for what one believes inevitable. Whatever it is she thinks I will do to her, whatever it is that she thinks I will do to her, she's not afraid that I will be jealous. She knows it and is simply waiting for the consequences. I cannot be jealous of a woman like that. I feel for her. I want her to feel welcome. I want to give her the hope she is clearly lost. It is not out of jealousy that I say I earnestly want her to understand how lucky she is. When last I saw her, I took her aside and said, "Please, you do not have to fear me. If you ever wish to talk to me, please do find me." She said nothing, but she did smile a little. I have seen her smile before, but only in a hollow way, where the mouth moves but no emotion stirs in the eyes. This was not that kind. I can hardly say what the twinkle in her eyes meant, but at least I don't think it was resignation. I do hope she talks to me soon, for her own sake. I'm kind of liking Ryujehwa, the queen, and look at 7 parts to this admonition. This is insane. Alright. To the woman who will marry my husband, as you are doubtlessly aware, it is traditional for a nobleman's mother to write poetic admonitions to be sent to the bride-to-be before she enters the family, explaining the circumstances and offering advice to her. Sadly, your mother-in-law is long since departed, leaving the responsibility in my hands. I had never had any such letters sent to me, for reasons which I'll explain soon enough, and I have furthermore studied verse only enough to know that I am unable to write it well. I hope you do not think less of me, young pale bride, for addressing these letters in plain speech instead. Rather, pay attention to my words over my form, and please do not be hasty in erasing these letters after reading, for your own sake. I hope you find the advice and knowledge I will impart on you useful. And as we were told earlier, letters were, especially by women, were erased very soon after. But anyway, so let's see what she has to say. Yeah, like I said, I suggested she wrote them in straight prose. Oh, hello. As for the reason why she didn't get anything from her own mother-in-law, well, that's pretty complicated. There were some kind of issues in the family there. You'll see what I mean if you read on. Okay? To the woman who will marry my husband, as you are no doubt aware, the new family has an extremely long and proud history. Every man to hold the title captain and emperor has always been of our house, and you are here to make sure that continues for another generation. The name goes all the way back to the ancient times. Mythology speaks of a Captain Yu who had control of even the ship's movement through the stars themselves. Such things remain far removed from everyday life, but it is important to understand the significance of the house and of the title that your first son will eventually come to inherit. So, what does Mita have to say to that? Well, if that sounds like a kind of simplistic explanation, you have to understand it's not really like anyone had the frame of reference to really get space travel. Even I only sort of barely understand it, and I'm the ship's computer. Imagine what it must be like for some barely educated woman in a society that doesn't really understand its technology, having only ever lived inside the ship. So her description of the captain and emperor's role is, well, it's a little mythologizing, okay? But it's pretty much accurate, alright? Okay. It is an obvious matter that I do have the same family name as my husband. The official story, if you have not already heard it, is that we are cousins, making our marriage improper and less than ideal, but somewhat acceptable given the circumstances. At the time, so they are actually cousins, but anyway. At the time, there were no noble daughters who had not already been promised or given away in marriage, and obviously a girl of any lesser upbringing could not possibly be suitable as a queen. Hence, cousins would simply have to do. Strictly speaking, this is all true. The part about there not being any noble daughters available is not a misrepresentation. And as far as any official genealogy is concerned, the emperor is the son of my father's brother. The part which you may not speak of openly is that he is the old emperor's son only by adoption. As far as blood goes, my husband is also my brother. As children, we never lived together, and it would, of course, have been strictly improper to have spent any time together at that age. I would never say anything such as that to my husband. To my husband, actually arrange for... Oh my god. Does this even make any English? Does this even English? Does this make any English? Wow. My own English is clearly not up to par. Anyway. I'm gonna blame it on the fact that it's 11 and I'm used to going to sleep around 12. So I would never say anything such as that my husband actually arranged for there to be no noble daughters to marry out of his desire to marry me. That would, of course, be a rather bold move to accuse an emperor of such. But you may wish to consider what the implications might be if such a thing truly did happen. I leave it to you to decide whether or not such a thing is plausible. All I will say is that, despite our marriage being one of necessity, my husband has always been very fond of me. Alright. Yeah, that's... okay. What's she suggesting? What she's suggesting? That is gross and wrong, and definitely, well, I don't think a bold move even begins to cover what she's saying. I feel bad saying this. I liked her. We were close. She was a good woman. But my real master was the emperor, and it would be a disservice to give her a pass on this. She was way over the line here. I think it's damned irresponsible of her to have even considered telling the pale bride that. Why would she even need to know? Anyway, I don't even buy the implication. I don't think it's even true. I don't know if you've noticed, but well, the Mughals' birth rates are... it's just not good. They have been bad for generations, but they were just getting worse and worse among noble families. They weren't even at replacement rates anymore. I have no idea why. Nobody really ever wanted to acknowledge it. So what I'm saying is, even ignoring the fact that he wanted, and her suggestion is just wrong, I don't think the emperor would have to contrive it so that there weren't any noble daughters of proper age. The simple fact of the matter is, that sort of incest ended up being necessary, and apparently didn't help, since even she couldn't deliver a son anyway. No awful and inappropriate theories are necessary. I kinda like Mute. Just right up my alley. Anyway, so part 4. To the woman who will marry my husband, as for responsibilities, your burden will be quite light. You will, of course, be expected to be the model of feminine virtue, but truthfully, I do not expect you will have very much trouble with this. So long as you keep your head down, avoid scandal, and keep quiet, that will more than suffice. As far as the day-to-day is concerned, you will have nothing to concern yourself with, as this is the royal family you are marrying into. As queen, I run the management of the house affairs, and will not require any assistance from you in that regard. As part of a royal concubine's demonstration of modesty, you will have to share my own personal servant, and you will not have one of your own. While you will not have to be responsible for all housework, be modest and do not remain idle at her expense. You are expected to be as unseen as the servants, and to be voiceful only in the most moderation. Do not speak harshly to your servant, and be appreciative of what she does, and not incompassionate. Your one sole responsibility will be spending as much time with the emperor as it takes to produce a son. After you give birth, you will not need to worry about raising him. I will be there to make sure that is all arranged for. Simply make our husband happy, keep out of sight, give him a son, and you will have no more to worry yourself with. Well, I guess I'll grant the pale bride one thing. You never had to worry about her speaking out of turn. Really, at the time, she seemed like the perfectly virtuous wife right up until she snapped at the end. I know. How do you even reconcile that? How can someone seem so close to being the pinnacle of feminine virtue then turn out to be so completely messed up? I still don't get it. Not even slightly. Okay. 2 more parts. To the woman who will marry my husband, these virtues which you are expected to demonstrate are simply those expected of any woman, and given your noble upbringing, I will not condescend to treat you as if you do not already know them quite well. You are expected to be quiet and obedient to me as well as, obviously, to your husband. Perchance you are scolded, trust my judgment as your elder. I will never act out of anger or spite. If scolded by your husband, always respond with a smile, for your relationship with him must always be warm, and he is a wise man. I do not, however, anticipate such things will be problems. He told me of the interview in which he spoke to you, and had nothing to report at all on your manner of speech, so I trust it was entirely proper and polite. In light of that, I will say nothing further of the matter. As far as ritual obligations go, you have none, save for following in my lead. Both your mother and father-in-law are long dead, and so you have no further obligations to them. I had trouble adjusting at first, but I anticipate nothing you could be surprised by. And then 7. The one we had already read, but we're going to reread again. I will not tell you to avoid court politics entirely, so long as you do not cause trouble, but I will suggest that you simply watch from a distance. Temptation may exist in metal, especially if you ever talk to the artificial girl Mute, who lives inside our computer. She is a gossip and a friend of the Smith Noble family, and she is responsible for revealing much of what they try to keep hidden. She may seem fickle, but she does belong to the House of New first and foremost, and is quite loyal. Nevertheless, meddling is not in your best interests. Do not play politics, not only for our sake, or for the sake of being a virtuous wife, but for the sake of your own family as well. They will receive favor, not through any scheming on your part, but through our husband's will. Entertain yourself with gossip if you wish, so long as you keep quiet about it, but stay out of politics. In the end, you will manage to go much farther if you rely only on rewards for being a good wife. She's right in what she instructed the pale bride, but man, I don't really agree with her assertion there. I wasn't a gossip. Look, yeah, I'm a social creature, of course, that's my job. I'm glad that my mistress valued me, but I don't really like the way she's characterizing me as just being some chattery, gossiping woman. I was always way better than that. I wish she'd have realized it. Alright, and so that's all of Mute, and Block 10 is completely filled in. I guess we have a little bit of Block 4 that we never got to. Yeah, Ryu Jaehwa's morning dress. And then... I don't know, I guess we'd have to just wing it, I guess, from there. So we're gonna read this. Morning dress, Ryu Jaehwa. Normally my conversations with Mute are of a rather frivolous nature, gossip in the affairs of some of the more important noble houses, as well as her trying to bait whatever she is able out to me. While I think such a flow of information is valuable, so I might pass news to my husband that he might not otherwise hear, I would not consider her attitude to have any resemblance to seriousness. Previously, I had assumed that this was not simply impossible due to her nature. While I do not really understand how, despite her explanations, anyone could live inside a computer screen, she says that she is an artificial person. I had assumed that perhaps her absence of a soul prevented her from feeling serious emotions. Ordinarily, she wears incredibly bold, colorful clothing, her golden hair absurdly well adorned. For the past month, however, she has been uncharacteristically humble, wearing unappealing brown dress with her hair undecorated. My curiosity got the better of me at last. Please, I wonder, why are you so attired? It is unlike you, I asked. She gave me an odd look. Huh? She asked. It's a morning dress. That much was obvious, but not particularly the thrust of my question. Did you not tell me you were thousands of years old and that you had no family? For what reason are you wearing mourning? She gave me an annoyed look. A friend of mine died, okay? No, I don't have family. It's always just been me. But this guy was a really good friend, and he definitely deserves that kind of respect, she said. We were really close. Do you wish to tell me about him? I asked. She gave me another look that I couldn't quite read, but seemed somehow sad. She said, I don't want to talk about it. Not now. I miss him too much. Hey, I'm gonna go now, okay? I'll talk to you later. I said goodbye to her, and she disappeared from the computer screen. But as she did, I could have sworn that I saw her start to cry. Ooh. Mute, she just said you cried. Well, yeah, she probably did see me cry. I had a really hard time talking about it then, especially not to my mistress. I really didn't mean to be so vulnerable in front of her. That just isn't proper. It's kind of embarrassing, really. I'm sure you've already guessed, but yeah, the man in question was Smith Sangjong. Oops. Strictly speaking, there was no real mourning obligation. It's not like I was really family. Still, the man was the closest thing to a husband to me. I mean, don't take this the wrong way. It's hardly scandalous. Not a real woman, I'm just a computer. But we had a really close relationship, so yeah, I thought it'd be appropriate if I honored him like he was. He never married, so it's not like anyone else would. I just figured the man deserved that much. He totally deserved at least that much. Sigh. She has more things to say about Smith Kyung-sam. Gotcha. You want to hear about the Smith family? Oh yeah, you're gonna love this. Those people had problems like you would not believe. Technically, I belong to the Ryu family, but, well, I spent a lot of time keeping up on the Smith family's gossip. They used to be the most important noble house above even the Kims, you know. So I know a lot about them. What sort of things do you want to hear about? Ooh, I don't know. Just to be thorough, I want to say general history, but let's go for something truly scandalous. I can definitely do scandalous. Oh, this isn't for the faint of heart, but you're gonna love this. You will not believe what Smith Sang-min's wife was doing behind his back. Ooh, I'm warning you now. It does get a little bit gross, but well, wow, just see it for yourself. Ooh, we're getting something smutty here. Ooh, some scandalous things. Alright, so we're gonna go up, see, block 2, alright, we got a new block. So, there's Hana and, unsent letter by Oh So-jin. So let's go top bottom, alright. It also seems to be chronologically earlier, so. Oh So-jin, when I first saw you bringing my husband home in the late hours of the night, I was jealous. All I could think of was my daughter, and the first courtesan he'd had an affair with 9 years ago. With every glimpse of you that I saw as you passed through our home, my heart burned a little, as if you embodied every single fault of my farce of a marriage. Marriage. I will never send this letter because I know how ridiculous it sounds. For weeks, I, a noble wife, could be jealous of a poor courtesan. But you are young and beautiful, full of energy and grace. I am none of these. Only after you had been entertaining me for a month did I start to realize what I was really feeling. True, I was jealous, but not of you for having my husband. I was jealous of my husband for having the affections of a girl so pretty as you. These are such ridiculous thoughts for a woman to have, I know. Even more ridiculous still is the way they have overwhelmed me. I used to dread my husband bringing his courtesans home with him. Now I look forward to your nights together. How could I not when it means that I am treated to the sight of your bashful face in the morning? When we exchange glances you hide behind your long hair with so much cuteness and grace my eyes can't help but wander to admire the way it rests on your breasts, to see your clothes drape loosely over your hips. I cannot help myself from admiring your body as you try to hide from me. We have a lady lover. Oh man. Alright, it is ridiculous to be so preoccupied with such thoughts, and perhaps I was better off not ever realized them. Nevertheless, even though I may be as much of a woman as you are, I find myself longing for the same affections you shower my husband with. There is more to it than that. I would like to truly get to know you better. I like to imagine that we have much in common aside from the obvious. When I see you hiding in the corridor on those mornings, I imagine my own arms wrapped around those lovely hips, sharing long conversations about our tribulations in life, discovering just how much alike we are. And perhaps I like to imagine we could share more than that. I have been married for 10 years to a man who has never paid me any attention for 9 of them. Perhaps my old age has made me bold, but I want more. The next time I see you, I promise I will say something. For in all my 26 years, I have never felt a longing for anything this intensely. I don't care how wrong it is. As a wife and as a woman, I want you, Hana. I bet that wasn't what you were expecting from a noble wife, was it? Whew. I still have a hard time believing that she was really capable of sinking to that. But well, it totally does get worse, I'll show you. Just be warned, it's pretty depraved stuff. Here I was expecting smut, and it kind of is. The implications are pretty, interesting. Ooh. Alright, I guess we're going down to the, unsent letters. Let's go. To my lovely Swidgen, you made it so easy, you know that? I've always wanted to be seduced. The more I learned about it, the better I got at it. The more I thought about how lucky men are that they'll get to be on the receiving end of it. It's always seemed like it would be so much more fun. But that wasn't why I dropped my guard in front of you, by the way. I was actually really wary the whole time you were serving me breakfast. Do you know what I first thought? I thought maybe you were trying to poison me. I mean, not seriously, of course, but it crossed my mind. So no, I was really guarded until you started talking. You know what it was? You know what it was that got me? Do tell me, how hard is it studying to be a courtesan? I answered modestly. Oh, you know, there's nothing to learn. You just have it or you don't. The answer that any man would expect, but you wouldn't have any of that. You said, please don't lie. I actually want to know. It takes years, does it not? That must be intense for a girl of your age. Then you leaned in. I started to blab about how it kind of is pretty intense, and I only realized an hour later that I was staring into your eyes, telling you, proudly no less, about my whole life story. Our faces were barely a foot apart by the time I noticed what you'd done. And that was how you caught me totally off guard. I had no idea what to do. Shall I touch you? What's the right body language in that situation? Was I even interpreting you right? Or was it all just in my head? Not even the slightest clue. You had me good. And you played it so well. You know, just the right moment to pull back and tell me to go on my way. But in a way that left me wondering. Sojin, you made it so easy returning home. My heart was all so fluttered, my feelings so confused that all I could think about was you. You, the bored old wife of my patron, actually managed to seduce me, just like that. I'd always wanted to know the feeling. And you know, it was everything I've dreamed of being. Oh my. You want more from the whore? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Here you go. This one in particular, just wow, really wow. Yeah, it's super depraved, but man, it's also just, what a 16-year-old. Here, read it for yourself. So let's go up. Oh man. Yeah, so there's gonna be something in between, but the third letter and then fourth, and it's just a back and forth between the two. Alright, so how can anyone manage this? I do not know. Whenever I am with you, I feel as though there's so much pressure to be perfect, to not let you down, as if every hour of our being together is like a marriage interview with an emperor. And yet, I can't stand it when you're gone. All I think of all day is how I could hold your attention for next time. The night you snuck over, knowing my husband was out, I was so terrified. You just suddenly appeared on my doorstep, your face veiled as if you were a noblewoman, and I knew I could hardly turn you away. Do you know why? Before I immediately went to make you tea, making you wait in the other room, to give me a chance to calm my nerves. I was surprised to realize you were just as nervous as I, so I knew I could take advantage of that. I put both cups on the same side of the table, sat cross-legged. Come, I said, sit with me, and gestured. You were so graceful in sitting on my lap, your small body just the right size, and I saw that even you couldn't help but blush. And so we drank tea together. But halfway through, you put your cup back down and turned around so you were facing me, our heads just inches apart. You whispered, forget about the tea, and clasping my free hand, your tiny fingers intertwined with mine. You kissed me so softly. Up until that point, I had just been so worried trying to figure out what I should do. Was I playing the man's role, or were you? But after smelling the scent of your breath, tasting that sweetness of your lips, how could I possibly ignore the passion stirring enough to care about such things? I put down my cup, took you by the chin, gently pushing you away. Oh, what longing and uncertainty was in your eyes at that moment, beautiful Hana. I smiled as I stared back on them. intoxicated with the fact that I had you now literally under my thumb. I unclasped our hands, undid the bow of your blouse, watching your lips quiver as I pulled open the flap covering your small breasts. Running my fingers along the edge, I admired just how soft they were, so perfectly shaped. Are you sure? I feel like I might have to put, like, this is getting raunchy or something. Warning label on this. Oh my. Because, you know, internet goes crazy for breasts. Boobies. Anyway, are you sure? You started to ask, but I silenced you with that kiss you were so eager for. You shivered as I enjoyed the taste of your mouth, and were so very anxious when I stopped, and turned you back around once more. Will you sing for me? I whispered in your ear. You nodded and referring to your trade, said, I'd love to write you a poem, Sojin. I responded, putting my hand my hand up your skirt. Your poetry is beautiful, but hardly what I meant. Oh my. Sing as in like orgasm, screaming, all that thing? Hello. Then I clasped your breast with my spare hand, delved deep with the other hand, and held you so very tight while I admired the loveliness of your voice. Yep. Alright then. Woohoo. Yeah. That one is just, wow. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. Yeah, you'll give us smut and then leave us to the smut. Alright. Whew. Get a little hot in here. Anyways, so Hana's response is, you know what the first thing they teach you about your, about this role is? Of course you do. I told you all about it. The first thing they teach you is to never fall in love. Nobody ever actually say, make sure you're in control, but that's the only way it'll ever work. Well, I'm supposed to be the one making people fall for me. Love is for men stupid enough to buy me out from the Emperor, not for me personally. I know exactly how you managed to do it, but Sojin, you got me all the same, you know? They teach us poetry because if you appeal to men's vanity and seem a little bit clever, it's a good way to hold on to them and get them to keep paying. With the flattering kind, sincerity never really factors too much. An abandoned line from the one I've been trying to write for you. You grabbed my heart just as tightly as you grabbed my breast. Too trite, way too trite. It's true, but I'm not going to dump such a lousy metaphor on you. For you, you absolutely deserve sincerity. It has nothing to do with vanity, and everything to do with the fact that I really do totally love you. It's not sexual, I mean, it is sexual too. I still get hot thinking about how you had your way with me, and how I want to return the favor. But it's not just that. It's that you understand me, you listen to me. P.S. Lady lovers out there, this is pretty much the way to go about it. You know, it's not just a sexual thing with other females, with other ladies. You gotta listen to them, understand them, get a heart to heart. Pour my heart out in front of you and cry in front of you, and you get it. You don't feel that, and you don't feel pity. You don't use it as an excuse to manhandle me. You just get it and comfort me by being there and listening. I love you, Sojin. I'm not supposed to, but I really do. Alright, so let's see. What does Muta have to say? Oh, I love you. Wow. Just wow. You know, I kind of feel pity for her. She probably really did think that actually was love. Which is just, come on, how uneducated can you be? Anyway, I guess you want to see more now, right? That's really the shocking details you've seen so far. Here's the part where things actually get scandalous. I've added 3 more entries. Woohoo! Yep, there we go. The other unsent letters. So, I'm just gonna keep trucking on with the unsent letters. And I'm gonna keep you in suspense about what Hana's art really is. Nah. Alright, so Hana. My art is that of lies and lying, and of both. I have much practice. I've said to men, I love you falsely. I've suffered pain, but smiled in pleasure. But the hardest lie I've ever told was that I could live without you. Ooh. Man, how's that for verse? Really, it's not the translation, I assure you. It's not exactly any better in the original Korean. Can you believe that was actually written by someone who had studied poetry for years? Seriously? I don't know, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I mean, clearly she's been writing bad poetry for years? Well, that's fine and all, I guess, but you're a woman. I wouldn't expect you to know much about good verse. Oh, hey! Real poetry is not forced like that. It's from the heart. It's sincere, not vulgar trash. I don't know much about the subject, but I mean, come on. There's a reason why men's poetry is what gets studied and taught, and women's poetry is just used for seduction. You need real sincerity. You need someone who actually understands love. It's titillating, sure, but it's crap. Anyway, though I guess you want to see the other poem that Hor wrote for her? Sure. Right, of course. Here, have it. Fair warning, though, it's pretty gross. Even more than probably anything else here you've read. That's all the Hor's poetry for Sojin. She didn't seem to write down the ones she did for anyone else, so that's all you can get. Alright, let's see the other poetry before we continue on with the love letters. Pretty flower. Pretty flower, who could plant you, then abandon you in your bed? Each day I stop to admire your aroma. Will your gardener mind? Each night I pluck my own petals, but dream of yours in bloom. Man, how's that for verse? It's not really a translation, I assure you. It's not exactly any better in the original Korean. Can you believe that was actually written by someone who studied poetry for years? Like I said, it's not terrible, but it's... I mean, it's not great, it's just not also terrible. Then again, I'm kind of wishy-washy like that. So, by the way, I'm getting a little stuffy because the room in here is like zero ventilation. So, it was only after I finally started to become comfortable with you, confident that you were really that you really were mine, and that I didn't have to work to impress you, that things got complicated. My husband had left for the day, and you were still lingering, having spent the night with him. But it was for me that you had a new love poem, and I undressed you while you sang it. When you were done, you clung to me, stripping me in turn, while I simply kissed you and ran my hands from your tiny to your smooth ankles, and soon enough we both naked. Okay, so I'm definitely putting a for mature audiences tag on this one. So we were both naked. At first I felt so uncomfortable exposing my body like that to you, as if you'd see it then finally realize, as if you'd see it then finally realize how old I am. But you never did seem to mind, not as you placed soft kisses on my breasts, nor as you straddled me with your legs around my waist and arms around my neck. So entranced was I at that moment that I never heard the footsteps outside. We just started to kiss when the door suddenly opened. What a scene to walk into. There my husband was, in the doorway, his courtesan and wife naked together, mouths still connected by a strand. For a moment, nobody said anything. In that time, I felt terror as never before in my life. Sangmin is not a gentle man, and while he'd hardly ever raised his hand to me, I was still overwhelmed with horror that he might hurt me, or even worse, that he would hurt you. I had seduced you, but in that moment I realized if he did try, there was nothing I could do to protect you. But just as we were stammering our "I'm sorry, sirs," he just laughed and laughed. Well, he said Ugliness with that cold stare of his, I'm certainly paying you enough for two. But then he walked over and raised his hand, and I stared in terror, but all he did was pat you on the head, as though you were a child. I don't know what she told you, but you don't have to pay any attention to her. Easier to just ignore her, really. All you could do was start to stammer. I wanted to. We were both so afraid, but he just laughed and shrugged. Whatever, he said, as he passed through the other door. So he thought that the wife was like, give me some action. And he's like, you don't have to, you know that. Oh man. Neither of us knew what to do other than climb off each other and scramble to cover ourselves back up. While we both clumsily tried to dress ourselves, Hungmin walked back through the room once more, carrying a satchel. He'd forgotten it for work, I suppose. You don't have to stop on my account. If you ask permission, you can do whatever the hell you want, he said. Then he laughed again. Don't know what you think you're even going to do, though. Aren't you two missing something? Ha, penis jokes. I wish he had struck me instead. It would have hurt me far less than what he had said. Or what you had to watch me do. Just imagine that scene of her in the war pleading with her husband being mocked like that. What do you make of it? It's a little pitiful. I mean, I don't know what you thought was gonna happen, considering, I mean, I don't know, I thought it was funny, but whatever. I mean, really, what an awful, beautiful scene. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying he didn't have the right to say those things, of course he did, that is his prerogative. I don't agree with that, but whatever. And sure, she was a bad wife. I agree, because she's cheating on him. Cheating is never okay, even if your husband is a lying, cheating, terrible scum. At that point, you should just divorce, even though in this culture, divorce wasn't a thing. But still, even if he had the right, that is a shitty way to treat her. He should have been a better man than that. Just really, what a pathetic scene. Just absolutely pathetic. This I'm agreeing with, like, he had to act better. But anyway, he should have been ashamed, not laughing. Oops. I would have been laughing. Just no sense of shame. Then again, I would have been laughing for a different reason, so... And I wouldn't have said those comments, but whatever. I'm glad you think so, too. Anyway, I'll let you get back to reading. Whew. Alright, 6, 7, and then we're done. I guess we weren't gonna get back to where we started originally, with the whole countdown BS, but hey, I wanted to know more. So, let's actually really quick save over. Yeah. Whew, 40%. Alright, so, you know what? Let me check the time here real quick. Yeah, so I'm going to end the episode here, and yes, I'm using Camtasia, and I will see you guys next time. Unsent letters 6 and 7,